A picture is worth 1,000 words. Ken Burns brings these photos to life by incorporating sound and motion to memorable images. His technique has been used for years and has allowed people to experience emotion behind still images. Let's take a look at this immersive storytelling. World disasters leave people shocked and scared. Home lives are destroyed. In most instances, you can't prevent these tragic accidents. But what if tragedy that left an entire country polluted could have been avoided?
Внимание, внимание! Уважаемые товарищи! Городской совет народных депутатов сообщает, что в связи с аварией на Чернобыльской атомной электростанции в городе Припяти складывается неблагоприятная радиационная обстановка.
On the 26th of April 1986, it was decided at Chernobyl to take advantage of reactor number 4's downtime by carrying out a safety test on an emergency core cooling feature. At 1:24 in the morning, an engineer recorded in his diary that the protective system wasn't working.
Recently stricken by a disaster, the Chernobyl nuclear power accident. It deeply affected the Soviet people and disturbed world opinion.
At the same moment, a huge and catastrophic surge in power caused 2 explosions. As fires raged, the core of reactor number 4 was destroyed. A huge cloud rose into the sky, spreading large amounts of radioactive fuel and materials into the atmosphere.
The power of the reactor suddenly increased. There was a considerable discharge of steam, and the subsequent reaction led to the formation of hydrogen, its explosion, and the destruction of the reactor, and the accompanying radioactive discharge. It was possible to limit the damage thanks to the bravery and expertise of our people and their devotion to duty. The level of the radiation in the area of the power station and the immediately adjacent area still remains dangerous to the health of people. The highest priority task right now is to eliminate the consequences of the accident.
Ukrainian authorities tried to hide the disaster, which had by that time claimed only 2 lives, when one employee was killed instantly and another died in hospital several hours later. Firefighters who rushed in to put out the blaze weren't properly equipped and suffered radiation poisoning. Attempts were made to cool the reactor by dropping 4,000 tons of lead and sandbags onto the site. Evacuation from Pripyat began a full day and a half after the explosion. Investigations into the accident at Chernobyl revealed both procedural and design errors at the nuclear facility.
The Soviet government, weighing all the circumstances connected with the security of its own people and the whole of mankind, has taken the decision to extend its unilateral moratorium on nuclear testing until the 6th of August this year.
The worst nuclear accident to happen to date is the Chernobyl disaster, which occurred in 1986 in Ukraine. The accident killed about 30 people and released a radioactive material. This land is now deserted. While this event had no positive outcomes, some tragic events lead to important change. Certain places hold a special place in history. The field at the Battle of Gettysburg, the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and for some reason, a 1,300-foot stretch of road in the south of Alabama. Let's take a look why.
There is a certain symbolism in a bridge. A bridge crosses divides, joining 2 sides as one. This bridge moves people across the Alabama River, and yet it also moves us in ways far more profound. Its namesake, Edmund Pettus, was a U.S. senator in the early 1900s. Prior to that, he had been the Grand Dragon of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. So there is a fitting, if unintended, symmetry in what took place here 50 years ago, when the divide between black America and white America could be denied no longer. Sunday, March 7th, 1965.
Now our goal is Montgomery.
Voting rights activists led some 600 marchers out of Selma, bound for the state capitol in Montgomery. The march was inspired by the shooting of a young civil rights worker, Jimmy Lee Jackson.
This is an unlawful assembly. You are to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue.
They made it only to the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where authorities set upon them. The violence of that bloody Sunday was broadcast across the nation. Martin Luther King Jr. came to Selma soon after and completed the march. Young CBS News reporter Bill Plant was there.
They have 6 miles to go on the 4-lane highway. Then they hit the 2-lane highway for another 8 miles today.
And with thousands behind them, Plant managed to speak with King.
Have all the activities of the past weeks in Selma come to fruition now? Is this the grand climax?
I would say this and its culmination in the march on the Capitol on Thursday. This is certainly the high moment and the high point in the struggle in Alabama.
Moved by outrage over Selma, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law, guaranteeing equal access to the polls for all. The consequences have been remarkable. African Americans are now a potent political force. But nothing has come easy. Just ask George Evans, the mayor of Selma.
Having the right to vote just didn't happen by accident. It happened as a result of people making a sacrifice, both black and white, for the benefit of giving rights to all people to vote and have a better quality of life and change the whole momentum of this whole nation.
But recently that momentum has shifted. In 2013, the Supreme Court rolled back a section of the Voting Rights Act, easing federal oversight of voting laws in several states. Chief Justice Roberts even cited Selma's African-American mayor as evidence the act has already achieved many of its goals. Debate over that decision will continue for years to come. Yesterday, President Obama stood at the Edmund Pettus Bridge and reflected on our nation's 5-decade journey.
When the trumpet call sounded for more to join, the people came. Black and white, young and old, Christian and Jew, waving the American flag, singing the same anthems full of faith and hope. A white newsman, Bill Plant, who covered the marches then and who is with us here today, quipped that the growing number of white people lowered the quality of the singing. To those who marched, though, those old gospel songs must have never sounded so sweet.
Marking a pivotal moment in the civil rights movement, the Selma March was an over 50-mile walk in which over 25,000 people hiked 12 miles a day, sleeping in field along the way to reach the Capitol in Montgomery to protest unfair voting laws. The historic Selma March draws thousands to retrace the steps of courage and activism even 58 years later after the iconic March for Voting Rights. Have you experienced the magic of the Ken Burns effect yet? If you haven't, don't worry, we will be right back after the break with more videos.
The future depends on teachers. Every day, teachers are shaping our tomorrows, starting their students on journeys that will change the course of history.
Right now, in a classroom somewhere in the United States, there's a teacher inspiring a future scientist who will make preventing pandemics their life's work. sharpening the mind of an aspiring environmentalist who will help combat climate change.
And generating possibilities for a student who will become the first in their family to graduate college.
It all starts with teachers who meet challenges with creativity, who reinvent education for the future, who work towards a school system that lifts up every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, and who enable the full potential of our students, our communities, and our country.
Explore a career that leaves a legacy you can be proud of. Shape the future. Teach.
Racing is life or death situation every time you hop in a race car. You consistently risk your life and well-being for the sport. Most people are able to be lucky, but some are not so fortunate.
That trophy right there, my name's on it now. They can't take it off. My car's going in Daytona, USA. I don't care. I love it. I want it to be there. I took me a little spin in the grass so I get the good out of it.
Dale Earnhardt is the most prolific restrictor plate driver in NASCAR history. 11 wins and only 52 plate starts. Today chasing his 35th total victory here in Daytona.
You never saw Dale Earnhardt Sr. do anything but drive offensively. But in the closing laps of that 500, we saw him on defense. You know he wanted to win another 500, but I think he was going to be perfectly content running third that day.
The last thing you want to do is overstate the drama of the situation, and yet you don't want to understate the possibility that things could go really bad.
I can't remember everyone that was in the room, but whoever came in, I think it was a doctor, came in and said we lost Dale. And we just all sit there and not knowing what to expect next. And I remember some of us just had our heads down and it was a bad day.
I go into the room where all the team members met. And I remember just looking at all of their faces and just this junk. So that's kind of where we all were.
This is undoubtedly one of the toughest announcements that I've ever personally had to make. But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Those words were impossible. I remember walking out in the garage and crew guys and people that had been in the sport forever hugging and sobbing. It was the most surreal scene because people were basically walking around in a daze. It couldn't happen to him.
Dale Earnhardt's death in 2001 was the final NASCAR death. It has now been 22 years since that fatal day in 2001, and his name will continue to live on iconically forever. He gave his life to drive, and his talent will be remembered. Music is the most magical thing in the world, and in the 60s, it was everything.
Does Syd Barrett fit into being a genius? I would say absolutely. Extraordinarily gifted songwriter and a very talented musician.
In his music, it didn't follow, I mean, even the simple songs, they don't really follow straight path of other songs.
You warm to him, really. Whatever the song, whether it's some silly song like Bike or Jug Band Blues or Octopus.
Advancements and turbulence of the mid-1960s, British popular music was going through an important change. Leading bands like the Beatles were starting to adapt their American R&B influences and move in an entirely new musical direction. As the West Coast hippie movement began to take hold on youth culture, a young psychedelic band led by art student Syd Barrett began to emerge from the London scene. They became known as the Pink Floyd. The group had begun by playing R&B covers, but it was through their live performances that their sound really began to develop.
They were playing gigs and basically to cover their own sort of, not lack of ability, that's the wrong word, but they found them, they used to sort of do long, weird sort of freakouts in the middle of numbers. So they'd be doing a straightforward number like Louie Louie, bog standard R&B song, and then they put this huge improvised sort of splurge in the middle, basically. And the psychedelic thing for Pink Floyd evolved out of that.
They became the kind of house band, really, for this burgeoning counterculture. Drugs were part of it as well. Poetry, music, all these forms of creative expression, and with this sort of challenge to the existing mores and conventions of the day.
A lot of people in the British psychedelic movement in the 60s had grown up with the R&B boom, with the Mersey beat and so forth, the sound that really defined pop at the beginning of that decade. But as the decade wore on, they suddenly began to realise there's more to music than just strictly 3-minute happy, happy, verse, chorus, songs in the charts. And once they realised that, everything began to take off.
Pink Floyd became increasingly successful on the new London Underground. They became a regular feature at the legendary UFO Club on Tottenham Court Road. It was here that they met Joe Boyd, who agreed to produce the group's first record.
Suddenly there was a lot of interest came through very quickly. People wanted to book them, and record labels were starting to sort of approach them. They had Joe as a producer because they knew him, he was a mate, and he knew Sound Technique Studios. And so they went into Sound Techniques and did the 2 recordings, Arnold Lane and Candy and the Currant Bun. The story is it was originally recorded as a demo tape to tout around the record companies.
I mean, this character, Arnold Lane, is a totally non-threatening character. Okay, he takes bras and knickers off washing lines, but there's no suggestion that he's some kind of evil predator playing on young girls or anything like this. There's a kind of innocence about it. Interestingly, the story is that it's very much rooted in real experience, and Syd Barrett's mother, and I think maybe Roger Waters' mother, at home in Cambridge, let rooms to students, female students at the university, and so there was always this line of bras and knickers hanging in the back garden, and so the sort of seed of the song is there. He was an extraordinary figure and an extraordinary songwriter, who in a very brief period of time made a remarkable impact on English pop music.
Pink Floyd has 14 studio albums, with Dark Side of the Moon being the most popular. This album has about 30 million copies sold after being released in 1973. We may never know when that is, but we do know that it's time for a quick break. We'll right back with some insight into new and exciting sport of parkour.
Join the team and pass the ball for National Women's Soccer League. By passing the ball, you will help get the word out for these amazing athletes and the game they love.
Amazing athletes. See, notice she didn't say female athletes. Amazing athletes who are great role models for all of our girls. I'm going to pass the ball to show girls they should dream big.
I pass the ball to say I can when others say I can't.
I pass the ball to stand up for women's rights.
I pass the ball to inspire change.
I pass the ball for my mum, my sisters, my wife, and my daughter.
I pass the ball for equality.
For hard work and determination.
Join the team.
Change the game.
Pass the ball. How'd you know that was coming? It's up to all of us to keep it going.
What are you going to pass the ball for?
With the start, we would like to talk about a sport that gets you from one place to another in a creative way. You're probably wondering what that sport is. Well, you will have to watch this fantastic video we have for you on the topic.
A lot of people would see parkour or see the movements that people are doing and they see it as like an adrenaline junkie sport, which I think and all my friends think is a very inappropriate title, but I could see how you could think that just from looking at it from the outside. But you said, what's the process of doing these things? It's like, you want to make sure, first of all, you measure the distance out.
People, they see at the top, they see what you actually do, but they don't see all the preparation, all the work that you put into before you're actually able to execute that thing.
I think at the moment I'm really enjoying creativity and like exploring things maybe that haven't been tried or they don't have like a specific name to them, but it's just trying new things. Being free, yeah, exactly.
Creative.
Yeah, exactly. I guess parkour is good in the sense that you're not bound by any particular rules. You've got the fundamentals that a lot of people will teach, but it gets to the point where you can experiment and be yourself and use your creativity to find out whatever you want to do. So that's what I really like about parkour, is that there's not, although there are like fundamentals, there's no rules, and that's kind of why I gravitate towards it in the first place. No one's saying you have to have your toes together, or you have to point your toes, you know, it's more just like, do whatever you want and express yourself and express your style.
Do you think we can relate parkour with art?
For sure.
Like, because you're being artistic,
the thing that it's literally having a blank canvas and then just like drawing your own little piece of art on the spot. So you might see somewhere that looks really cool, or it's got an interesting vibe, you like the look of it, and then it's like you're applying your style and your own individuality to this space, and you're creating something. So that kind of sounds like art to me. And I think the cool thing about parkour is it's like, it's multifaceted. There's lots of different elements of it. You've got the artistic style of it, you've got the athletic side of it, do you know what I mean? People are trying to push whatever they want, so someone could be trying to do the biggest jump that they can do and the hardest things in that sense, and it's more pushing towards an athletic style.
Yeah.
Then you've got someone else, maybe like me, who, although I do apply my strength and power to parkour, I still like to put my own artistic spin on it, so I would define myself more of an artist.
Parkour was first created in the 80s by a man named David Bell. Ever since then, the unique sport has been booming. No matter what sport it is, fans always have one dream and one dream only. And if there's one thing to make that dream sweeter, it's a long wait.
And this is what it's come down to, perhaps the greatest night of sports history here in New York. The New York Rangers coming out onto the ice for Game 7 and their try to win the Stanley Cup. The chant of "We Want the Cup" going up from the crowd here at Madison Square Garden. I have been coming to this building since 1968 when it opened. I have never heard anything like this. Messier, Graves, Anderson, Leach, and Mukabo for the Rangers. McIntyre, Antosky, Hunter, Hennigan, and Brown. Slow down by Gorey, gets by it. Messier cuts in, still with the puck. Nice pass to Zubal. Zubal, Leach scores! Moment for cross-checking at 14:03, and the Rangers have the first power play of the game. Messier, Graves, and Kovalov for the Rangers. Kovalov to the puck. Now Graves, he scores! Adam Graves! It's a power play goal, and the Rangers lead 2-0. They don't get it. It's going to be a break for Trevor Linden. He moves to the net, and he scores! What an effort by Trevor Linden. He was the man who came on when Kirk McLean went to the bench, the extra skater on the delayed penalty, and the Canucks have scored to cut the Rangers' lead to 2-1. Zubal and Leach, Noonan turns, puts it in front, missed by Graves. Noonan's backhander save, and they score! Messier! It's a power play goal! By Ronning around the net. Ronning back pass. Brown couldn't tee up a shot. Ronning to Courtnall. He shot it, they score! As it was batted in by Trevor Linden. What a wild sequence. 5:18 to go in the third. Saved by Richter! Lafayette had a chance. I thought he got the glove on it. It might have hit the post. The waiting is over. The New York Rangers are the Stanley Cup champions. And this one will last a lifetime. No more purses. This is unbelievable. These people have waited a long time. Fans, players, coaches. Unbelievable. Let the celebration begin.
It's probably the hardest thing about it is trying to win a cup when you're the favorite all the way from start to finish. New York, the controversy, I don't know. I'm so numb right now, I don't even know what to say.
Well, I guess first of all, I have to give a lot of credit to Vancouver. They were a lot tougher team and played a lot better than I ever thought they would in the series, and they showed a lot of heart, determination for coming back from being down 3-1. So our hats are off to them. They made it awful tough on us, and we got to be thankful to them just because it was that tough. It's going to be that sweet for us.
Well, it's the toughest game I've ever been a part of, having to win this one. I can't believe how tight you are, and just the clock doesn't move. I don't know. Mike's making stops left and right, and I just put my head down and can't believe it. I can't believe it.
Well, to be honest, it hasn't sunk in yet. You get so tuned into the game, and we were fortunate that we played well enough in the beginning of the series to get up 3 games. We had 2 games where we lost, didn't play well. We learned from them, and we took advantage of that tonight. So I'm glad it was this difficult because that makes it more satisfying.
The 1994 season will live on forever in minds and hearts of all Ranger fans. It only has them wondering when they will get to experience this again. These stories can be remembered forever, though, through magical Ken Burns effect. His technique makes us feel as if we are trapped in these pictures and allows us to fully absorb the scene being painted. Whether it's happy, sad, or even mad, Ken Burns effect alters viewers to watch these still images come to life.
Being a firefighter in New York City is an extremely common job, and you may have someone close to you who is a firefighter. However, did you know that firefighters are more likely to die by a suicide rather than in a fire? They constantly put their lives on the line to help society, and now they need your help. Friends of Firefighters is a non-profit organization that provides free mental health services to those who work on FDNY. It's your turn to save them. Donate today.